Welcome to my 2-round mock draft with trades. This is going to get wild, so you've been warned. Caleb Williams is a no-brainer, but at 2 in this mock, I got Washington taking a Heisman winner out of LSU. I've mocked May in the past, and truth be told, I don't know which quarterback Washington likes better, but Daniels is the only quarterback who dominated in the SEC. At 3, we have our first trade. Minnesota gives up both first-round picks in this year's draft and their 2025 first round pick to move up to pick number 3 in this year's draft, and they take Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. If May goes number 2, I'm not sure Minnesota makes this trade, but Minnesota's new quarterback coach, Josh McCown, was Drake May's coach in high school, loves this kid, loves the upside, so if May is available at number 3, Minnesota pulls the trigger. Pick number 4, I firmly believe Arizona takes their top-rated wide receiver. In my opinion, that is Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. Pick number 5 is where my draft gets crazy. Before my draft gets nuts, just a friendly reminder, subscribers to Dan Talks Football are scientifically proven to have sex with swimsuit models 690% more than non-subscribers. Hit that subscribe button and you're guaranteed to bang a swimsuit model. Now, back to the draft. The Chargers at 5 do not want J.J. McCarthy to go to Denver or Vegas, so they give a better deal to the New England Patriots. New England gives up the newly acquired picks of 11 and 23 to the Chargers, who will give up picks 5, 69, and 140. Spoiler alert, both teams will be making more trades in this mock draft. Every mock I've created has had neighbors to New York at 6. Whoever the Giants' top-rated wide receiver is, whether it's Neighbors or Oduzze, will be the Giants' pick here, but just a hunch, they like the LSU guy better. I originally mocked Oduzze to Tennessee at 7, but the Titans need offensive line help more than they need help at wide receiver. I'm going alt here, but just FYI, I do have Oduzze as the higher rated player, and he would fit perfect in Callahan's new offense. Atlanta at 8's a no-brainer. Best player available and a position in need is the same thing, so Dallas Turner to Atlanta at 8. Pick number 9, we have another trade. In last year's draft, once Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted, the Lions traded DeAndre Swift to Philly the next day. I'm not sure if T. Higgins is traded draft day, before the draft, or after this trade is made, but in this mock, I have the Texans using pick 59 for T. Higgins. The Bengals will take advantage of the trade capital and trade up to 9 with Chicago. The Bears only have 4 draft picks, so they would welcome a trade down. In this mock draft, the Bengals will give up picks 18, 49, and 144. Keep in mind, in this scenario, Cincinnati, with the trade for T. Higgins, will still have a second-round pick and 2 picks in round 3. The Bengals at pick number 9 will select Rome Oduzze, wide receiver out of Washington. Jets at 10, despite adding offensive line help in free agency, still take a tackle here at 10 who can fill in for Tyron Smith because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Olu Fasanu, in my opinion, is the perfect fit. He could push Morgan Moses to start at right tackle, but has enough experience to play left tackle day 1. Keep in mind, Tyron Smith did play some right tackle the last 2 years in Dallas, so it's not inconceivable that Fasanu starts day 1 on the left side, Tyron Smith on the right side, and Morgan Moses backs up both positions. Chargers at 11 take who they have rated as their top tackle. Most draft boards have that as Talise Fuega, who becomes the day 1 starter at right tackle. Denver, I firmly believe, has to get their quarterback here because Vegas at 13 also needs a quarterback. Denver could trade up, but I don't see how. Bo Nix fits Peyton's system perfectly, and in my opinion, he'll start day 1. I really want to put Penix at 13, who I have rated higher than Nix, but Nix fits Peyton's system better. I also like the local kid Fatano here, but most draft boards have Latham rated higher. This works good for both the Saints and the Raiders. Latham will start day 1 on the right side. Fadoano, in my opinion, will be the day 1 starter on the left side in New Orleans. The Colts at 15 will take their highest rated corner. I have that as Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, but if they like Terry and Arnold better, I wouldn't be mad at that. At 16, we do have a trade. Seattle, with their new head coach, wants more draft picks. Green Bay needs help on the offensive line and has 2 picks in both rounds 2 and 3. Green Bay gives up picks 25 and 58 to move up to 16, and they will select Tyler Guyton, tackle out of Oklahoma. In my opinion, Green Bay does this because they believe Tyler Guyton can be the day one starter at left tackle. Jacksonville at 17 lucks out. They need help at corner, and the best defensive player on the board is Terrion Arnold, a gift for the Jags' new defensive coordinator. I've mocked several times Lot 2 to Chicago at 9. The Bears trade down in this mock draft and get him at 18. Good job, Chicago. Bowers to the Rams here at 19 just doesn't seem fair. Starting tight end Tyler Higbee got injured in a playoff loss against the Lions and might not be ready week 1. Bowers should be and could be a massive upgrade for the Rams. At 20, we have a trade. The way this mock draft is going, Jared Verse is still available, and while Pittsburgh might not need an outside linebacker, Arizona could and has draft capital to burn. Arizona gives up picks 27 and 66. In return, Pittsburgh gives them 20 and 98. Basically a switch of first and third round draft picks. Verse should be long gone by now, but a nice pickup for Arizona, who still has 5 picks in the next 84 selections. Miami doesn't have a third or fourth round pick and could try to trade down, but I don't see anything that really works. Your new defensive coordinator is a former defensive line coach, so taking a defensive lineman here makes sense. Miami could go Byron Murphy, but I got a hunch De'Zhaun Newton will work perfectly with the Dolphins. Philly really needs a corner, and former Dolphins defensive coordinator Vic Fangio loves to play man. I did mock Philly trading up for Wiggins and several other mocks, but here the Eagles grab him at 22. The Chargers at 23 are making a trade. Brian Thomas Jr., the other wide receiver from LSU, could easily go here to the Chargers, but I have the Chargers doing something different. Carolina takes advantage of this and trades a second round pick they acquired in the Brian Burns trade plus pick number 65 to move up to 23 and get Bryce Young some help. Things are bigger in Texas, and Dallas selects massive tackle Marius Mims out of Georgia at 24. If he starts day one, watch out NFC. At 25, Seattle trades again. New England trades picks 34, 69, which they acquired earlier from the Chargers, and pick 103. In return, Seattle will give them picks 25 and 81. At 25, New England takes Kingsley Suda-Matea, the tackle out of BYU. In this mock draft, the Patriots get their starting quarterback and starting left tackle in round 1. Tampa could go offensive line here, but you have a defensive-minded coach and lost pass rushers in the offseason. If Chop Robinson is still there at 26, I believe his upside is too much for the Bucs to pass up. Every mock draft I've created has Jackson Powers Johnson going to the Steelers. Pittsburgh could take him at 20, but in this mock they trade down, get some extra draft capital, and still get a day one starter on the offensive line. I could see the Bills doing several different things in this draft, but every mock draft comparison I've seen has Byron Murphy compared to Bills defensive tackle Ed Oliver. Murphy doesn't have to start on the Bills defensive line day one to have a massive impact, and I believe he will. Detroit takes Cooper DeJean out of Iowa at 29. I'm calling him a corner, but I'd really like to see the Lions get creative and use him all over the secondary. Maybe not a day one starter, but will start on special teams immediately and improve the Lions defense. The Ravens at 30, well, you have a hole at corner. An Alabama player is on the board at 30 that probably still shouldn't be there. The Ravens go ahead and get the former Crimson Tide corner here at 30. I like Graham Bartram out of Duke for the 49ers at 31. He played left tackle at Duke, but I believe he could be a day one starter at guard or maybe even center down the line. In this mock draft, Kansas City gets stung by the Patriots because if Suda-Matea is available, I believe he will be the selection. Most mock drafts have Kansas City going receiver, but not me. I have them taking Patrick Paul, the offensive lineman out of Houston. While I don't have Paul rated as a first round player, he is massive, has 44 starts and excels in pass protection. In my opinion, Paul will be the week one starter protecting Patrick Mahomes' backside. We start day 2 of the NFL draft with a trade. This offseason, Carolina traded Brian Burns to the Giants, and they make another trade to start round 2 of the draft. The Giants will give up picks 47 and 70, and Carolina in return gives New York picks 33 and 101. The Panthers will get back a third round pick that they gave up earlier for the trade for Brian Thomas, and New York at 33 will select Darius Robinson Robinson, defensive lineman out of Missouri. Last year, the Giants traded Leonard Williams to Seattle. This year, they go ahead and get his replacement. Robinson's game's very similar, and he could be a day one starter on New York's defensive line. Seattle, after trading down twice, finally gets their guy in Peyton Wilson, inside linebacker out of NC State. McDonald's defense in Baltimore was spearheaded by the best inside linebacker duo in the NFL. Now, Wilson does have some medical concerns, but he is my number one inside linebacker in this draft. He may not start day one, but he will contribute, and if he can stay healthy, he will continue the Seahawks tradition of great linebacker play. Arizona at 35 gets some interior offensive line help. I've seen several mocks with Frazier going in round 1. Arizona here gets their day one starter at the top of round 2. Washington at 36 takes the first safety off the board. In my opinion, Nubin starts day one opposite Jeremy Chin for Dan Quinn. Keep in mind, safety is a position that the Chargers may be looking at 37, so you want to go ahead and take Nubin here at 36. The Chargers take Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan, here at 37. You have a hole at linebacker. You take a player who helped you win a national championship last year, even if it's higher than most people have him rated at. Now at 38, we have a trade. The Titans, I firmly believe, want to stockpile picks and get a trade partner with the Rams. LA gives up picks 52, 99, and 155. Keep in mind, the Rams have 2 third-round picks and pick 154 in the draft. The Titans will give up pick 38. And with the 38th pick in the draft, the Rams will take one of my draft crushes, Braden Fisk, defensive lineman out of Florida State. Now, Fisk doesn't exactly replace Aaron Donald here, but he replaces Aaron Donald on the defensive line. This is a guy who I think is a first-round talent. In this mock, the Rams will trade up to 38 and get Donald's quote-unquote replacement. I know some of you are going to roll your eyes at Harbaugh taking another Wolverine at 39, but you need help on the defensive line, and the problem with the Chargers has never been talent, it's winning games. You know players have to have the right attitude, and you draft someone at a position of need here at 39. Most mocks have Jordan Morgan rated higher than other tackles I've already selected, so Washington may end up getting a steal here at 40 because Morgan could be the starting left tackle day one. You draft a quarterback at number 2 overall, you want to make sure he is protected. Max Melton is one of my draft crushes, and 41 might be a little high for him to go, but the Packers need help in the secondary, and Melton is a playmaker. Just a hunch, the Packers like this kid, and I believe he becomes a fast fan favorite. At 42, the Texans, thanks to trading for T. Higgins earlier, make a trade. Please keep in mind this trade only happens because T. Higgins is now a Texan. The Steelers in this mock trade up and give Houston picks 51 and 66, which they acquired from Arizona earlier. The Texans will give back picks 42 and 86. This will end up being a win-win for both teams. Pittsburgh has 2 third-round picks, and Houston gets to move up 20 spots in round 3, so the Steelers can draft a Donde Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. Again, if Houston doesn't trade up for Higgins, Mitchell will be the selection here and will stay in the state of Texas, and Pittsburgh won't make this move. However, here the Steelers luck out in what could be a great addition to the Pittsburgh offense. After signing Cousins in free agency, I could see Atlanta going heavy on defense. Last year started for a great Georgia defense, and just a hunch, getting another stud SEC defensive player who stays in the state of Georgia is a huge plus for the Falcons. I've mocked multiple trade-ups for Penix, but if Penix falls out of round 1, I could see him falling all the way to 44. In this mock draft, the Raiders get 2 day one starters on offense and ace this draft. I don't like doing this, but I have the Saints going back-to-back offensive linemen in this draft. The Saints are moving on from longtime offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael and bringing in Clint Kubiak from San Francisco. This offense will run more, and this team's biggest weakness is the offensive line. BB will start day one and be a massive upgrade. I toyed around with the Colts trade up and down, and while Michael Hall is probably a reach here, he will contribute immediately and become an inside effective rusher for the Colts. Carolina, after trading down, gets Braylon Trice, who really could start day one. The Panthers, in my opinion, get excellent value, and after the Burns trade, they do need help with their pass rush. Doug Peterson played with and coached Deshaun Jackson. If he sees any of the same qualities in Worthy, this will be a selection here for the Jags. A big reason Chicago wants to trade down is because they need help at offensive line, but I think they like their tackles. It's the interior that needs help. Haynes is quickly rising up draft boards and could be a day one starter on the interior offensive line for the Bears. Philly at 50 takes the Ivy League tackle, and while he is raw, he has time to learn. I'm thinking he replaces Lane Johnson at right tackle in 2026. Houston, after trading down, takes TJ Tampa at 51. Despite trading down, there is a possibility Tampa could end up starting opposite Stingley. Tampa is a corner I firmly believe D'Amico Ryans likes, with size and is physical in the run game. Tennessee, after trading down, gets what some people think is the best inside linebacker in the draft. At pick number 52, Cooper could be a steal and end up starting day one for the Titans. These two picks are reaches by most big boards and mock draft, but both players fit really well for their teams. Philly really struggled on defense last year, specifically in the secondary, and you know the Eagles like Georgia players, and Bullard was a team leader. I'm listing him as a safety goodie, but you could play him in the nickel. He probably doesn't have a defined position, but if I'm the Eagles, I just get this kid on the field. The Browns finally get to draft someone, and while most people have another Georgia Bulldog ranked lower, Van Pran is physical and offers depth on the interior of the offensive line for the Browns. Even though both Browns guards made the Pro Bowl last year, both missed a little bit of time with injury, so he offers valuable depth on a key position. Miami at 55 has my final trade of this 2-round mock draft. Miami, without a pick in rounds 3 or 4, would love to get some extra draft capital, and they find a trade partner with the aggressive Chargers. LA gives Miami picks 65 and 105 to move up to 55. At pick 55, it's another Michigan man, Roman Wilson, wide receiver out of, well, you know. Unlike the other two Wolverines, Wilson should go in the top 50, but thanks to an extremely deep wide receiver class, Wilson is available at 55, but could and should be gone at the top of round 3. That's why the Chargers make this move up. Dallas at 56 might hit a home run here, especially if Mims lives up to his potential. If you're into fantasy football, take Benson early, because he could and probably should, if he stays healthy, have a Pro Bowl season as a rookie. At 57, Bowles usually drafts bigger corners, but in my opinion, Rakeshaw could play in the slot and is extremely aggressive in run defense. Despite being smaller than what Tampa Bay usually takes in corners, I really like Rakestraw here, and he provides excellent value. Seattle at 58 takes the massive Sweat. Last year, Seattle gave up the second most rushing yards in the league, and look at the division you are in. Sweat won't play every down, but he helps stop the run big time, pardon the pun. After acquiring this pick from the Houston Texans for T. Higgins, the Bengals take a receiving tight end. They did sign Mike Gesicki to a 1-year deal, but I don't believe he's the long-term answer. Sanders is raw, but very talented. I expect him to help this year and be the starter in 2025. I have heard a lot of people say Leggett will go in round 1, and I really love this player. Buffalo gets a ton of value grabbing the USC, that South Carolina receiver here. If they can unlock his potential, the Bills could have a potential superstar. Nealon is kind of like Diet Aiden Hutchinson, an outside linebacker who has defensive end size but plays better standing up. Nealon won't start right away, but if he can adapt to the step up and play, he could be a terror opposite Hutchinson for years to come in Detroit. Some of you will roll your eyes at Baltimore taking another Bama player, but after losing Clowney in free agency, Braswell fits a need, and he backed up 2 top 10 players in the draft. I fully expect Dallas Turner to be drafted in the top 10. Braswell has massive upside, and you know he is well coached. Bullock is not your typical 49er safety. In fact, Bullock might end up switching to corner, but since you fired your defensive coordinator after a Super Bowl loss, maybe you want to change things up in your secondary. Bullock is extremely athletic and offers a skill set the Niners really currently don't have in their safety room. With my final pick in the 2-round mock draft, I have Kansas City taking Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. I view Wright as a change of pace back. Pacheco, while tough due to his physical style, misses a few games each year due to injury. Wright is a home run threat with receiving ability, and a few times a year you can ask him to get that 20 to 25 touches per game. The way I do my mock mock draft is I always go an extra round, and I did 2 separate 3-round mock drafts. Rounds 1 and 2 are exactly the same in both mock drafts, but round 3 I tried some different things for different teams. Both mocks are available in the description below, but will only be there for a few days after this video is released. Here are some of the 3rd round picks I think you may like. In both mocks, I have Keon Coleman going to Miami with pick number 65. He probably cost himself some money at the combine, but is tall and extremely athletic. Don't be surprised he ends up with a stat line of something like 40 receptions, 500 yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. This is a massive red zone target that Tua, once he's signed, will really appreciate. Bucky Brooks at the NFL Network has Jonathan Brooks as his top-rated running back, and after his ACL tear, I don't think he'll be the first running back off the board. In both mocks, I have Vegas grabbing him at 77, and if he's healthy, the Raiders get a home run threat in the backfield. In both mocks, I did fail to get the Bucs offensive line help, but I firmly believe they will fix that in free agency. At pick number 89, Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin could be an absolute steal. For those of you old enough to remember Mike Allstott rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling, you will really appreciate Braylon Allen. In Tampa, you can't stack the box against this team, so 1,000 yards rushing is extremely doable for Allen as a rookie if he can stay healthy. Yes, Baltimore goes 3 for 3 with Bama players, as at 93, Jermaine Burton falls to the Ravens. Most year, Burton probably goes in the mid-second round, and Baltimore does need some wide receiver help. Burton is too good to pass up here for the Ravens at 93. Pick number 94, the 49ers grab Brendan Rice. You may remember his dad Jerry used to play for them, and he wasn't that bad. Same story. Rice should go in the 2nd, not bottom of the 3rd, and don't be surprised if San Francisco trades up for this Legends kid if Rice starts to drop in the draft. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, I go live every Tuesday and Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the live stream, all questions are answered and anything goes. Can't wait to see you next time on Mock Draft Monday!